Susan?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Good evening, everybody from different universities, different countries around the world. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. And also I want to thank who also watch us live on YouTube as well. So thank you so much, all of you. Also, I want to thank our keynote speaker today. Our keynote speaker today is Dr. Sharif. Dr. Sharif obtained a PhD in accounting from Plymouth University in the United Kingdom and Master in Finance, Accounting and Management from Bradford University, also in the United Kingdom. As well as MBA in Financial Management from Arab Academy for Financial and Banking Science, PGC Diploma Postgrad Certificate in Research Methodology from Plymouth University. PGSP 600 Certificate of Professional Development of General Teaching Association course at Plymouth University as well. Diploma in Economy, Feasibility Studies, and Financial Analysis from Cairo University, and Bachelor also from Cairo University. Dr. Sharif worked right now as assistant professor at Arab Open University in Kuwait branch. Also working as a lecturer in October University for Modern Science and Arts. Assistant professor in the Arab Academy for Science, Technology and Maritime Transport for MBA postgraduate. Lecturer at the East London University for MBA students, also working at the Plymouth University as an associate lecturer, and finally lecturer in Ahram Canadian University. Dr. Sharif as well published several papers in high-ranked journals in AAOIFI and other topics. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharif, for accepting my invitation. Dr. Sharif, you have 45 to 1 hour for your presentation, and then we'll open the floor for any questions. For the the audience, if you want to ask Dr. Sharif any of your question, please wait until the end of Dr. Sharif presentation, then you can ask him. You have two types to ask Dr. Sharif your question. You can raise your hand and we can go one by one and ask Dr. Sharif your question, or you can type your question below the screen in Q&A. Please, don't write your question in the chat because the chat is keep rolling and we can't catch your question. Thank you so much. Dr. Sharif, thank you again for accepting my invitation and the floor is yours.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Ahmed, to give me this opportunity to share my knowledge and share one of my paper with the audience and anyone who interested about the Islamic accounting and AAOIFI. And inshallah, today I'm going to present one of my paper related to what we call a systematic literature review on AAOIFI standard. I will start to share my screen.
Dr. Sharif, if you excuse me.
Yes, and I think
yes. The one that you asked me to ask the audience if they prefer it in English or in Arabic. So just if you give us like a minute to let the audience choose if you to listen to you.
Okay, yes.
Just give us a minute, please.
So I'm going to wait just 1 minute to select if you'd like to make this lecture by Arabic or by English. Yes, okay.
Correct. Dr. Sharif, it seems like 50-50. So it's up to you. I prefer in English if it's like 50-50. So I think if you go.
So let's start to speak by English, and I can say through my speaking, I'm gonna to make.
Yeah.
So I think we can speak English, and maybe through my speaking, I'm gonna to maybe mention some keyword by Arabic to just to reflect.
Yeah, and also Dr. Sharif.
I'm gonna to screen my PowerPoint. Yes.
Dr. Sharif, also after your presentation, the audience can ask in English and Arabic. So all the audience in the Q&A part, you can ask Dr. Sharif in Arabic or in English. So that's fine. Thank you so much.
I can't hear your voice. I cannot hear your voice.
Can you hear my voice now? The audience, can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Please can write in the chat if you can hear my voice.
Okay, so Dr. Ahmed, please, if you can just check my voice from time to another to check if you can all hear my voice or not.
Because yeah, we can hear it. We can hear your voice.
Yes, you can hear my voice. Yes, now.
Yes, I can hear you. I just said, Dr. Sharif, all the audience, they can ask you in Arabic or in English.
Dr. Ahmed, can you hear my voice or not?
Yes, we can, yes. Please give us like a minute until Dr. Sharif rejoin. So until Dr. Sharif rejoin again, I will put in the chat all the ITAR accounts. So anyone want to join those accounts to keep your eye in the future webinars as well. You are welcome. Give us 2 minutes, please. Okay, now Dr. Sharif join.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ahmed. Can you hear my voice or not now?
Yes, we can hear you, Doctor.
Okay, so shall I start?
Yes, you can. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay. Again, can you see the PowerPoint or not?
Give us a second. Yes, now we can.
Okay.
Please, if you can make it. Yes, all right, all right. Go ahead, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, inshallah, my presentation today, as I said, it's about one of my joint paper, and as you can see, this is about a systematic literature review on a AAOIFI standard, and it was a joint paper with Dr. Noha from Saudi Arabia and with my friend and brother, Dr. Sameh from Egypt, and it's already published at the beginning of 2021 in Journal of Finance of Financial Reporting and Accounting. And briefly, this is my agenda today in this lecture. I'm going to start briefly to talking about the objective from this presentation, and this give you a brief introduction about the Islamic banking and the growth related to this industry. And then we are going to speak by little analysis or by little details about the AAOIFI and the landscape or current landscape for this standard. And then I'm going to go directly to my paper through presenting the methodology and the main result that we found from this scanning of the literature. And then the most important point, which is the recommendation and direction for future research. Before I start, I have to say what is the objective from this presentation. If you expect in this presentation to explain the meaning of Islamic banking or Islamic accounting, no. If you expect from me to explain the difference between Islamic and non-Islamic and or AAOIFI and IFRS, also no. But I can say the main objective from this presentation today, I can see 2 points. Number one, it's a direct to present the main paper that speaking about AAOIFI and make analysis for this field. And this is, you can see the direct objective from my presentation today. Then I can see the indirect objective, which is very, very important for me personally, is to encourage the other researcher to enter this track and try to guide you and to give you some opportunity. I can see a great opportunity to write a paper in this field, just to increase the number of the papers and academics who are interested about this track. And I can say by simple way, as they said, when the opportunity knocks, so you have to answer your door. And I can say our lecture today, it's a great opportunity for anyone who would like to write a good paper in the track of Islamic accounting, and also you can get a high chance to publish, inshallah, in the future. Of course, this is my abstract about the paper, but I will not explain it now, maybe at the end of my presentation. Let me briefly, as you can see from this slide, the objective from this paper, just to review the paper that measure or just to study the AAOIFI standard, whatever the different methodology used, whatever different sample, and the main objective is to determine the gaps related to this track, and based on our methodology, as I'm going to explain it, we make a review for 46 paper through 23 journals that published within 20 years, start from 2000 until 2020, and later I'm going to explain the main finding related to this literature. As a beginning, and before we start to explain or to mention or to make analysis for AAOIFI standard, we have first to understand what can I say, the motivator or the driver for the Islamic accounting, which is of course Islamic finance. And of course Islamic finance or Islamic banking, which starts 60 years ago when the first bank opening in Egypt in 1962, which called the Bank Mid Ghamr, Islamic Bank Mid Ghamr, and then the first Islamic bank who interact with the people, which is Bank Abu Dhabi Islami. Nowadays, by 2021, after 60 years from the beginning, we're talking about more than 500 Islamic financial institutions across 60 countries. And when we're talking about Islamic finance now, we're talking about, and this number is expected to be reached in 2023, we're talking about $3 billion related to the compliance, or you can say investing as a compliance with Sharia. And we're talking about approximately 100 million customer or investor who invest in this track. And as I said, we have a lot of facts and numbers reflect for what extent this industry, I mean Islamic finance or Islamic banking, grow and develop around the world. And we're talking about between 10 to 13% from the global investment is related to the Islamic banking. This growth in Islamic banking, it should be reflected in the standard, which is AAOIFI. And by the way, briefly, if you don't know this abbreviation, it's called Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution. And there is a lot of literature support and provide a positive indicator about to what extent Islamic banking comparing with conventional banking is more profitable and stable. And just one example, I want to approve for this result. It's a global economic crisis in 2008 and 2009, which reflect to what extent Islamic banking is less affected by this crisis. And I think nowadays also many papers or research try to support this result. For what extent the Islamic banking comparing with the conventional or commercial can stand against the current pandemic, I mean COVID-19. And when we're talking about Islamic financial institution, it doesn't mean just all Islamic banks. And when I said Islamic financial institution, it's mean Islamic banking and powerful companies, which is equivalent to insurance and any other investment companies that working based on the Islamic Sharia. And by the way, also when we say, when we're talking about Islamic banking or Islamic finance, it doesn't mean just a Muslim that will deal with this industry, but it's available for anyone who interested to invest with banking or investment comply with Sharia, like prohibited interest and speculation and gambling. And let's focus briefly the difference of the uniqueness of Islamic banking, because we have many literature and academic support for what extent Islamic bank differs from a conventional, whatever in the structure. Islamic, it's differs from. It means Islamic banking should present or report a different information in its financial statement. This means related to the Islamic banking, we need specific and
Dr. Sharif.
And the standard to comply with the uniqueness and the service. Yes, Dr. Ahmed.
Dr. Sharif.
Yes, I can hear your voice.
Your voices keep cutting, so if you don't mind, switch off your camera. Maybe this will improve your voice clearance, please. So if you switch off your camera.
Okay, just a second.
If you want, I can do it for you. Give me a second.
Just a second.
Let me do it for you.
Okay.
Okay, now.
Yes, I stop.
Yeah, now please share your screen.
Now can you
give me a second?
Yes, I share my screen. Yes.
Okay, now go ahead, please.
Okay, great. So as I said, because the Islamic banking, it's differ from the from conventional, so it's need a special accounting and standard and assumption to comply with the nature of Islamic transaction. For this reason, they said we need comply with this Islamic banking. So you can ask me, is it mean in the IFRS or the GAAP, whatever, it's not matching or it's not comply with Islamic banking? Yes, we can say that, because as I said, in the IFRS, there is a lot of transaction not reflected in this standard that provided by Islamic banking or Islamic financial institution. For this reason, in 2091, the new organization issued and start to publish a standard for Islamic banking, which is AAOIFI. And of course, simply we can say in the Islamic financial institution, the main reason is to react. It's start to react toward Sharia, to present product and service comply with Sharia. And of course, as you know, one of the objectives of Islamic financial institution, one of the accountability is to invest the money of the banking based on the Sharia. So this is meaning we are accountable or responsible to Allah or God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is mean in an Islamic financial institution to survive, to create or to keep the competitive advantage and keeping, yes, as I said, a competitive advantages comparing with the conventional, it should provide a high level of confidence and trust to the public or what called the stakeholders, and this is should reflected in the reporting. For this reason, yes, we have what you called AAOIFI standards. And just to understand for what extent there is a similarity or differences between AAOIFI and global standard like IFRS, we have to know the approaches for developing standards. At the beginning, when the AAOIFI started, they had what we can call the two tracks. The first one, they said, we can develop our standard, I mean AAOIFI, without reading or return to the global standard. It means, he said, ignore all IFRS and all conventional accounting and start from scratch, from the zero, based on the Islamic Sharia, I mean Quran and Sunnah and other resources. But in the other track, and this is what adopted by AAOIFI, they said, no, why you have to start from the beginning? Let's start by the conventional standard, I mean IFRS or GAAP, but by a simple test. This test or filtration, by simple way, if any assumption or principle of of conventional banking or accounting, it's comply with Sharia, so it's accepted. If not, so we can delete it or ignore it and search in our Sharia, Quran and Sunnah and other about a new version or a new assumption. And this is, as I said, what AAOIFI adopted. They start from the global or international or conventional accounting and standard, and they make like updating and modifying. This is mean there is a many similarity between AAOIFI and global standard like IFRS. And I'll give you a very, very simple example. For example, in IAS or ES1, which is talking about presentation of financial statement, as you know, we have 6 components, started by income statement and balance sheet and cash flow and so on. In the Islamic financial institution number 1, it takes the same statement, but it added another statement to reflect the Islamic perspective. Like we have a statement of sadaqat and qard hasan, and we have a statement of unrestricted investment. So this is a new statement comply with Sharia. Okay. This is briefly, you can see the roadmap for AAOIFI. Just a discussion started in 1987 in the conference in Algeria, talking about to what extent we need accounting standard for Islamic banking. And actually in 1991, AAOIFI founded in Bahrain, and still now it's the main, or you can say the headquarters in Bahrain. And as you can see, some main point related to this roadmap, like for example, in 1996, we issued the first accounting. As you can see, in 1997, we issued the first governance standard related to the SSB, what we call the Sharia Supervisory Board. And as also you can see, in 2000, AAOIFI issued the first Sharia standard related to the trading. And can you see, we start this journey from 1991 until, as you can see, in 2020, the AAOIFI issued what we can say the report based on the survey. Takes 1 year. This report, and by the way, it's available online in the AAOIFI website. This report, or this survey, they made scanning for all countries and organizations that adopted, and they try to provide all information about the adoption by countries or by regulator around the world. And this is a very, very brief about this organization. The founding year, it's in 1991. Until now, we have more than 140 members institution from 37 countries. 17% from this member are central bank. They are a member in AAOIFI standard. And also AAOIFI standard, we have you can see 5 track or 5 groups of standard. We're talking about Sharia standard. This is number 1. We have accounting standard. This is number 2. We have governance standard. This is number 3. And we have auditing. This is number 4. And we have ethics. And this is number 5. Also, until now, we can say until now, we have 114 standards issued by AAOIFI standards. And inside AAOIFI also we have 3 technical boards. And when I say board, I mean the committee that responsible about issued and develop the standards. We have a Sharia board, and we have accounting board, and we have governance and ethics board. And if you, by the way, the names and the background over these board members are available also in the AAOIFI website. And it includes specialists and academic and Muslim scholars related to this board who are responsible, as I said, about issued standards. Can you see, this is a very, very, very important slide. This is, as I said, it's presented by AAOIFI, and it's reflect the landscape, current landscape for AAOIFI around the world. Can you see, we have SHA, this is Sharia standard, I mean with ACC, I mean accounting, with GOF, sorry, this is governance. Can you see briefly, sorry, this is regulatory and countries. We have 16 countries around the world full adoption for Sharia. And we have 18 countries around the world full adoption for accounting standard. And we have 15 countries adopted or full adoption for governance standard. What about regulatory organization? We have maybe more, as you can see, 19 that adopted Sharia, 24 adopted accounting standard, and 18 regulatory adopted governance standard. It's not just a full adoption. As you can see, we have a partial adoption. We have some countries or regulatory used AAOIFI as a guidance. And also we have some countries create or issued or develop its local standards based on AAOIFI. And this is reflect. I'm just trying to present this just to reflect for what extent the AAOIFI standard grow and developed in the last 30 years. This is just some names from the some regulatory around the world that adopted AAOIFI standard, like Afghanistan Central Bank, like Bank of Algeria, and I can mix what over Bank of England. And as you know, England or UK try to be a hub center for Islamic finance in the Europe. And for this reason, as you can see, the Bank of England adopted AAOIFI standard for the Islamic bank in this big country. And this is the reflect for what extent, even non-Muslim countries care about or interested about Islamic banking. Okay. Now I can say, if I'm going to speak by what can I say, numbers, I can say research method, I can expect there is a positive correlation, or there is a positive association between growing or development or growth or booming of Islamic finance around the world and a UFI standard. And this is I can say this hypothesis is accepted. And as I'm going to show you now through 30 years, or you can say through the last 20 years, IOFI standard issued many amendments or governance or Sharia just to support the industry of Islamic banking. This is just a brief history of standard that issued by IOFI. Can you see, for example, when we're talking about financial accounting standard, we're talking about, if you remember, when I said 35, I can see we have 35 of accounting standard. Can you see the first standard issued in 1993, and can you see the last standard issued in 2021 related to IJARA, FAS, I mean financial accounting standards. And as you can see, we have a standard for each transaction, just a symbol. We have a standard related to the conceptual framework. We have standard for murabha, mudarba, musharka, salam, ijara, zakah, istisna, provision, takaful. Every transaction or every item in the Islamic banking, you can find Islamic accounting issued by IOFI to organize this transaction, start from organizing recognition, measurement, and disclosure, and of course we have Sharia basics behind this standard. Related to the auditing, we have 6 standards, and as you can see, in 2020 we have a new standard issued related to the external Sharia audit for the Islamic financial institution. When we're talking about governance standards, we have 12 standards. Start from the SSP until the 3 standard issued new in 2020, and also start from 2018 about central Sharia and also internal Sharia audit, and also we have what we call Sukuk Sharia, or Sukuk governance. And at the end, we have also 2 standards related to the ethics. So can you imagine, as I said, 114 standards covers 5 different areas. Our track in the Islamic banking, whatever accounting and governance and auditing. And this is just a very, very brief chart to reflect the development and of IOFI. And as you can see, the highest year that IOFI issued the standard, it's 2020. So this is, I can say, this is my first part from my presentation today, just to present the booming that happened in Islamic banking as well as Islamic standard. And as I said, I can say there is a positive correlation or association between the increasing and development and the growth happen in Islamic banking. This is in one hand. In the other hand, yes, IOFI as organizations reflected or matching with this increasing in the Islamic banking through issued all accepted or available standard to be matching with this increasing in the Islamic banking. But my question now, and this is my main point related to my paper, our paper with my colleagues. Our main question is this growth and development in Islamic banking as well as in Islamic standard, is it reflected in academic paper? You get my point. And for example, if we have 114 standards, and if the Islamic banking grows around the world, and as I said, we are now talking about more than 500 Islamic financial institutions. We have more than 100 million customers. We're talking about approximately between 10 to 13% from the global investment. It's by Islamic banking. Is this phenomena, if I can say, is it reflected in academic? Do we have a lot of paper and academic research and project investigate this phenomena? And this is what we are going to see. First of all, as I said, as you know, if you'd like to write a paper, you have 2 methods, I can say, or 2 ways. The first way is a practical. I mean, you have to collect data, whatever primary or secondary, and you are going to make analysis, whatever using SPSS or structural equation modeling or whatever the method. But on the other side, you can write your paper theoretically, like our paper, which is we use what we call systematic literature review. And as you can see, we use this methodology that adopted by previous literature. And I'm going to briefly to focus on the steps of the process of methodology that we use it. Like, let's start first. We try to search about any paper that includes the word of AAOIFI or Islamic standard, or any keyword like Islamic banking, like murabha, musharaka, or any keyword related to this area, and we search about any published in many sources like Emerald, Science Direct, Wali Online Library, Elsevier, even in Google Scholar, and we put like a constraint or limited time for our search, start from 2000 until 2020. And you can ask me why you start from 2000, because if you remember, the first standard, whatever accounting and auditing and governance, it was at the late of 19th. So we said if we start from 2020, we expect to find a relevant paper. And of course, we limited just by English, because I think we have many paper can discover this area, but by Arabic. But unfortunately, we start to search from 2020, but most of our paper, it's allocated between 2009 until 2020. And if you also ask me why, I can say a simple answer. In 2010, 2 or 3 leading journals just specialized about Islamic banking issued or started to issue or to publish a paper to this track. The first journal is the International Journal of Islamic and Middle Eastern Finance and Management, and the second one it's a Journal of Islamic Accounting and Business Research, and the last one it's the International Journal of Islamic Finance. I can say availability of journal and its index in Scopus encourage and just to focus on the area of Islamic banking and accounting. I can say these journals make like a development and ability and opportunity, great opportunity for researcher and academic to publish paper in this track. Okay. As I said, this is the keyword that we use it in our search. As you can see, AAOIFI, the full word Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution. Also Islamic Accounting, a word like Sukuk, a word like comparison between AAOIFI and others, a word like CSR, local corporate social disclosure or responsibility disclosure, word like investment accounting holders, IEH, a word like Islamic Bank, word like Murabha and Musharka, and so on. This is a simple introduction about our methodology. But to understand this methodology, I mean systematic literature review, you have to understand the 5 steps. So the first step, and this chart or graph reflected each steps. Step number 1, we made like initial assessment for literature. We just search in Scopus and any our other source about any paper or any file, just include this keyword. Based on this initial investment, or you can say step number 1, we collect, just imagine 350 paper, include or cover this word. But in step number 2, we made some filtration. And when I say filtration, it's mean some paper, it's just the publication. Some paper we cannot download even the abstract. Just the title, it's available, but even we couldn't download the file. Some paper written by a different language rather than English. So based on step number 2, after, as I said, made some elimination, we reached to 70 file or 70 paper. Also in step number 2, we can say our final filtration. And this is in in the final filtration, step number 3, we focus on published paper. By other words, we found some paper in not index in Scopus, for example. We found some paper or some files not published, like thesis or dissertation. So we also ignore this paper. After these 3 steps, initial assessment for literature, and then eliminate any publication. And in the 3rd step, our final filtration to reach to our sample, which is 46 paper. And this 46 paper we classify into, you can see 3 groups. The first group, it's a paper, you can see empirical literature that used secondary. I mean financial from the annual into 17 paper measure the compliance. It's mean used for what extent or not. And in the compliance, of course, the majority use the annual content analysis. In the second group, we have the empirical literature that use the secondary data, but they apply or they calculate the determinants of AAOIFI. And at the end, just 5 papers try to measure the consequences of AAOIFI, like the impact of AAOIFI over earning management, for example. In the second group, this is just also empirical literature, but use the primary data. Primary data, I mean, use the interview or questionnaire with anyone who interested about this field and present its finding or result theoretically or used structural equation modeling. And in the third group, we have theoretical literature. This is 19 paper. Theoretical means, for example, like our paper, like other papers that just to compare between Islamic and the conventional standard. Some paper just to focus on answer some question like why we need the AAOIFI standard and there is a clash or matching between the AAOIFI and the other standard. So I can say step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, this is the methodology until you collect a paper. Step number 4 and step number 5, this is very important. This is, you can see, a second step in the systematic literature review. After you collect the relevant paper, you have to make, I can say, 3 or 4 steps. Step number 1, presenting. Just present through classifying. This paper used this methodology. This paper used this theory. This paper provide this finding. So just presenting the papers. This is the first step. Step number 2, critical review. You have to try to write or to make a critical or criticism. You can say for this paper, what is limitation, what is gap, what is missing in each paper through the discussion. So this is your second step. Based on this critical, based on this critical review and based on this discussion, the last step, which is step number 5, which is very, very important. I can say this is the main value added or contribution for systematic, which is recommendation and what is the future research and what is gap, what is the opportunity for researcher. I hope these steps, it's clear to you. Step number 1, just searching about any paper talking about our topic. After some filtration and some elimination, you will get step number 2, and another filtration based on some criteria you can determine. You will get the final filtration, and based on this final filtration, you will go directly to step number 4 and 5, which is include, remember, 3 words: result, just presenting the result. Number 2, critical and discussion and determine the limitation and the problem, you can say, or gaps related to each paper by paper, and then recommendation and future research. As this is what we found. I don't need to repeat it again. And briefly, as I said, we found 46 papers are located in 23 journals. And this is briefly, I will not explain it, this is briefly the summary for our selected paper. As you can see, the author and the journal, and if it is secondary or primary or theoretically. And also we made like classification for each paper depending on which standard they focus. Whatever whole standard adopted or not, or whatever specific standard like sukuk or murabha or musharka, or whatever accounting, just or ethics or governance. And as I said, until 46 paper. Okay. This is also another analysis for our selected paper based on the highest citation for the highest 10 paper from out of our 46. And we depend on the Google Scholar citation. And as you can see, for example, the first paper as the highest citation, it was related to the measure the CSR disclosure, corporate social responsibility against the financial performance, and the measure the CSRD based on the AAOIFI standard number 5 related to the CSR. Okay, this is also, you can say, another analysis for our selected paper by years and by journals. You get my point. Yeah, and for example, I can say in the highest year that published paper you can find in 2017. We have 8 papers. After that, 2019, 7 papers. And as you can see, the journal, of course, the highest one is the Journal of Islamic Accounting and Business Research that published within 10 years, approximately 70 papers just related to AAOIFI. Remember, our focus here in the AAOIFI standards, not AAOIFI as an organization, or not Islamic banking, or not Islamic finance, or no. These papers are our systematic just to focus on AAOIFI standard. Okay. This is, of course, a chart to reflect the published papers by years. And as I said, the highest year, it was 2017 by 8 papers, and then 2019. And I can say my main objective, our main motivation from this lecture is to make 2021 and 2022 the highest year to publish if you convinced by what I'm going to present now as a recommendation. And can you see, this is a very, very great chart. In this chart, we reflect, we show for what extent, as you can see, the comparison between the development and how many issued standard issued comparing with the paper published matching with this standard. Can you see? From 1993 until 2007, issued the standard without any paper. But if you compare, you can find in the last years, I can say start from 2015 until 2020, in the last 5 or 6 years, the number of published start to increase, and this is good indicator. This slide, I can say this is one of the most important slides also in my presentation. This is what it's already covered. The standard, it's already covered by published paper. Can you see, for example, in accounting standard, we have between 26 until 34 standards. But can you see how many standards already investigated? 7 or 8 or 10. This is mean you have more than 15 standards not investigated in accounting. Sharia standards, we have 57 standards, just 1 or 2. In auditing standard 6, we just have 1 standard applied in one of the published paper. In governance, we have 12 standards, and we can find just 3 standard investigated. And at the end, we have ethics standard 2 standard, just 1 paper investigate this. This is mean, and this is, you can see treasury in this field. This is meaning we have approximately more than 80 standards issued by AAOIFI without any investigation. And this is a very result related to our empirical, based on our systematic, mainly related to the secondary. Of course, all the literature that measure or use the secondary data, I mean annual report, and use content analysis, and mainly manual, not computerized, they focus on 3 levels or 3 tracks. They measure compliance level with the standard. Number 2, they measure the determinants, whatever related to firm characteristics or related to the corporate governance, and at the end paper that measuring the consequences of IUFI through measuring the impact of IUFI over the different track. And this is, I can say, the most comment over this empirical. For example, most of the literature just measure the compliance, focus just over the IUFI without any comparison with any other standard like IFRS. I can say one of the most comment over the empirical study, I can say the majority of the previous study focus in a very, very few number of IUFI standards, like FAS, I mean Financial Accounting Standard #1, or like GS, Law Governance Standard #7. This is mean we have a missing in many literature that measure whatever the compliance or the determinants for others standards. And also I can say most of literature that measure compliance with IUFI found a very, very, or relatively, or you can see very low compliance. And this is can asking a future research why. What is the main reason behind this phenomena, and they try to give some recommendation to develop this compliance. This is also another slide to reflect how to summarize our paper. Can you see our selected paper? Each paper, it's include sample and which standard it's covered, what is the independent related to the determinant, what is the analytical approach that used by authors, as I said, like content analysis, or manual content analysis, and also the finding, and if they find the positive or negative or even insignificant, and at the end, the limitation or some critical review for each paper. Of course, I will not explain this, it's already available on the paper, but I'm just scanning just to know the main result. And of course, like this result, it can help you a lot if you'd like to write a new paper in this track. Can you see? This is, as you can see, sorry, this is, as I said, each paper summarized in a different columns, sample, which standard, what is the independent, what is the approach used, what is the main finding, and a simple limitation, whatever, as I said, a practical or even as a theoretical paper. As I said, I didn't need to explain this paper, it will take some time, like I'm going to focus on this is my main point today. I can say this is my focus. This is the most important topic or session in my presentation today, the opportunity. The direction for future research. I cannot call the gaps. Yes, it's the gaps in the literature, but I can say it's a great opportunity for future research in this track. We divided our recommendation into 5 groups. The first group, it's about IUFI issues. It's about IUFI standard. As I said, approximately 87 standard without any analysis or without any measurement. I just to give you some example. For example, we have IUFI FAS 23 related to the consolidated financial statement for Islamic financial institution. Just imagine, by the way, each standard not investigated before. As a researcher, you can write, or you have 5 area, or you can say 5 paper. You can, for example, make a comparison between, theoretically, you can make a comparison between the Islamic standard and the conventional standards, just to know the gap, similarity, and for what extent the Islamic it's matching or not with the conventional. And you see, this is just first idea. Second idea, you can make index based on standards, and based on this index, you can measure the compliance or adoption level based on the content analysis, whatever manual or computerized. Third one, after you measure the compliance, you can measure the determinants of the compliance. Again, whatever related to the corporate governance or firm characteristics. And at the end, you can measure the consequences. Can you see? Just imagine each standard. I have 4 or 5 opportunity to write a paper about it. And this is just an example. For example, we have a new a new issued standard related to Sukuk, FAS 33 and FAS 34. And in the other side, of course, you have a bonds, a conventional bond. You can make a comparison, as I said, whatever theoretically or practically. Also, by the way, as I think if I check now in the Google and search about IFRS 9, I will find a lot of paper talking about IFRS 9. By the way, a UFI standard issued a very similar standard called FAS 30 and FAS 35 related to the impairment and credit loss. So just imagine if you can make a comparison between the conventional and the Islamic and try to see for what extent the Islamic banking, mainly during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's affected, and how we can reduce the gap between the Islamic and conventional. Also, one of the most important research area related to the new standard, it's related to the governance. In 2018, AAOIFI issued a new standard related to the governance, related to the Central Sharia Board. It's a very, very important. One of the, what can I say, limitation against Islamic banking is the SSB. SSB, I mean Sharia Supervisory Board, which is always said for each banking have, or you can say has what you call individual Sharia board. And this is create a different fatwa and different treatment. Now, AAOIFI issued what you call Central Sharia Board. And as you know, in some countries like Malaysia and like Bahrain and like I think Sudan, they have, sorry, like Oman and Sudan, they have a Central Sharia. So this is a new area to research how the Central Sharia Board can affect on increase the reputation and increase the trust of Islamic banking. And one of the most important new issued standard is related to Sukuk governance. And as you know, one of the most important investment in Islamic finance around the world is Sukuk. So just imagine how can important if you can write a paper about Sukuk governance. And before I go, can you see this title? I found in one of the reports, this title called AAOIFI proposed, because this title 2 years ago. AAOIFI proposed the standard for governance of Sukuk. And this is me opened the door for unforeseen risks. So now you have a new door, you can open it to search about the impact of Sukuk governance related over the Sukuk market. And also, it's not just about accounting. Also, by the way, we have a new standard related to the auditing, AAOIFI. And this gives you opportunity to start or try to investigate for what extent this AAOIFI standard can impact or can affect over the auditor and its finding. So this is the first group of the research related to the AAOIFI. Second group, it's analytical, how you can see the method. I can say 90% from the method used in the track of AAOIFI standard, it's content analysis. Or sometimes it's developed to add like a simple interview or even questionnaire, but a simple analysis. So what about if later or in the future, we can apply or study or investigate the AAOIFI standard by using new methodology like meta-analysis, like fuzzy logic methodology, just to know what is a different scenario about the determinant and the consequences. Even I can recommend you to make a questionnaire with the all stakeholders about Islamic banking and try to present your analysis through using approach or method like SEM or structural equation modeling, not just a theoretical. So also a new method can be used or adopted on this track. Also another track, you can see another opportunity about AAOIFI, it's measurement. If you can read the paper, our paper about the systematic literature, you can find 1 or 2 or maybe approximately 3 papers talking about the consequences. But just imagine if you can measure the impact of AAOIFI standard, whatever you can measure by binary, and I don't like this, but you can measure AAOIFI by index, and you can measure the impact of this index, AAOIFI, I mean adoption. over the value relevance. You can measure over the earning management. You can measure the impact over reporting quality. You can measure over conservatism. You can measure the impact over cost of capital. You can measure the impact of auditing fees. And by the way, this example that you can see now, this is it's already used. This methodology, I mean the impact of standard over, but it focuses on the IFRS or GAAP. So you can take the same methodology but apply over the AAOIFI. You get my point. Also, by the way, most of paper that is speaking about the consequences of AAOIFI just focus on the microeconomic level. Whatever financial performance, whatever earning management. But what about the macroeconomic level? What do you think if we study for what, or if we measure for what extent adoption of AAOIFI by countries over the foreign direct investment, for example, economic growth, international stock listing, about rating of the country. So you can go up to measure the impact of the macroeconomic consequences of the adoption. Also, I can say the majority of the paper that measure the AAOIFI, they focus on the quantity. When I say quantity, I mean they measure by binary system. But if you can measure the quality of, for example, content analysis, what about if you can measure the tone management related to Sharia and the governance Islamic? This is also another track. I can say the majority of the study that measure AAOIFI, what can I say, maybe 90 or more than 90%, they focus on the Islamic banking. Please do not forget, Islamic financial institution, it's not just Islamic banking. We have to be careful. And by the way, if you check the AAOIFI standard accounting, you will find accounting standard just about the careful. So what about if you can make index for one of these standards and measure the compliance and measure the determinant and the consequences just before the careful numbers? You get my point. So this is a third track or future track related to AAOIFI. Also, another track related to the AAOIFI, as you know, now we have the pandemic of COVID-19. Now we're talking about a lot about big data, blockchain. So why, if you would like, if you can, to make a join between this concept and the AAOIFI? For example, what is the impact of COVID-19 of the compliance level? Remember, I'm not talking about the Islamic bank as an Islamic bank. No, I'm talking about the accounting standard. What about the using or the link between the Islamic standard and information in the annual report with big data? By the way, another point, as you know, the AAOIFI as an institution issued 2 certificates. One of these certificates called CIBA, or Certified of Islamic Public Accountant. This is a comparable to CBA, of course, with a difference. But for example, I will give you just a simple example related to this track. As you know, more after COVID-19, now we're talking about online study as our lecture now. So you can make a study about how AAOIFI interact with this situation and what is the impact of this situation, I mean COVID-19, on the study of certificate and the courses that provided by AAOIFI and how interact with this, and what is the impact of the online system study over the growing and development and expansion of AAOIFI around the world. This is also another track related to AAOIFI. Also, another track related to AAOIFI research. For example, you can measure or you can try to measure the impact of the role of central bank toward adoption AAOIFI standards. For example, as I said, in Bahrain, in Oman, in Sudan, central bank adopted. So you can make whatever theoretical or empirical or literature, or survey or questionnaire about what is the impact or what is missing to make the central bank, at least in Islamic and in Arabic countries, to make the adoption of AAOIFI comes from the governmental level, not from the banks level. And also, as I said before, the narrative disclosure about Sharia and accounting. This is one of the missing track in the accounting study. And I can say also one of the most important expected research in this track, it's forward-looking information. Most of the paper that focus on this applied in this track, they always focus on the historical information available on the annual report. So what about the forward-looking information? Especially related to, for example, the NPL or non-performing loan related to the credit risk. Also, by the way, the positive criticism. When we're talking about AAOIFI, it's mean everything is correct and there is no any mistake, no any limitation. No. Of course, we have to be objective about this standard. And why not? You can try to make a theoretical paper. It can be theoretical. You can add it with interview or questionnaire with some scholars or with some academics interested about this track, about what is the limitation. How can we develop this standard to be full comply with what we expect? And also, by the way, as you know, AAOIFI, it's not the only standard or not the only institution that issued Islamic standard. Also, we have IFSP, IIFM, and it's located mainly in Malaysia, a hub center for Islamic finance in Asia. So why not? Why you cannot make a comparison also with a similar standard between AAOIFI and other Islamic standards? At the end, the direct correlation. What do you mean by direct correlation? Most of the paper that measure AAOIFI, they just measure the impact of AAOIFI over a very direct relationship. What about if you can apply the same study, for example, the impact of AAOIFI over the CSR, for example, or over the financial performance, or over the earning management, or over the cost of capital, or over the foreign direct investment, but after you moderate another variables, like the law or like the culture or like the Sharia central standards. Yani what I'm trying to say, try to not complicate it, like try to add more additional analysis in your paper, not just a very direct relation between AAOIFI and other standards. Before I finish my presentation, as I said, and as my supervisor, Dr. Khalid Jazallah Khair, and I think he mentioned a lot in his presentation, and he gives me this recommendation before. If you'd like to write a new paper in the new track, I prefer, this is just a simple recommendation, try to start by write systematic literature review, or at least try to read a systematic literature review. Because simply, if you'd like to write a new paper, if you are in your master or in your PhD, and you'd like to start your idea, what you have to do? You have to collect literature or paper related to the topic, and you will try to make a classification and summary for this literature. And based on this classification, you are going to make, you are going to determine the gaps. And once you determine the gap, that's it. You are going to start your study. So by simple way, systematic literature review need all these steps. So if you start your reading or your paper by reading the paper as a systematic literature or meta-analysis, for example, or literature paper, you can save 50% from your effort and time. And just to give you another direction for future research, can you see this 60 paper? It's also apply systematic literature review in Islamic banking, but in different track. For example, paper Nomran and Harun in 2020, they made a systematic literature review just related to SSP and the financial performance. And can you see it's collected 21 empirical paper. Another paper applied by Hassan, I mean Dr. Kabir Hassan, this is one of the famous professor in this track. He made with Alia in 2018 systematic literature or review for Islamic banking generally. Another paper for Rashidullah in 2020 also it made a systematic literature for Islamic fintech or finance technology. Another paper for in 2019 adopted systematic or meta literature review just only for Sukuk literature. Another paper by Dr. Hassan in 2019, they apply a review of historical background for AAOIFI and IFSB and IIFM as an organization, not as a standard. Also, Dr. Hassan in 2020, another paper systematic or meta literature for takaful. Can you see? Each paper I can see provide a great opportunity for anyone who interested to join or to enter this track to read first this paper, to scanning this field, and after you read the paper, I believe you can find at least at the end of my presentation. Of course, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Ahmed Al-Qattan, to give me this opportunity to present. And many, many thanks, and I can say Jazakumullah khairan, and also thanks for anyone who attend the presentation today, whoever interested or who would like to interested about it in the future. And of course, من باب ما لم يشكر الناس لم يشكر الله, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Khalid Husseini, my supervisor, my doctor, because if I can say something in this track, he helped me. And of course, I cannot ignore it, my parent and my wife to support me in this track. And at the end, I can say, and this is, as I said, my main motivation. I can say, I can give you an open invitation for anyone who would like to start to write a paper in this track to ask me. I'm here, I'm available, by the way. This is my email, this is my phone, my WhatsApp. I don't know if I can give you my address, but I'm here, I'm available. If you are a student, if you are a researcher, I'm not expecting anything, by the way, but I can provide collaboration, I can provide the paper, I can provide the data if you like, I can provide a discussion and a brainstorm about any idea related to this track, generally Islamic banking and accounting, and more specifically, AAOIFI standard. Many, many thanks to waiting or to attend this presentation. And I'm sorry, I know it takes more than 1 hour, but because I had a lot of information, and I believe that I couldn't cover everything, like in as much as I can. Thanks, Dr. Ahmed, and Jazakallah khair, and I'm waiting your question, of course.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharif, for your efforts. Very informative and very useful presentation. And as I always let me begin, first of all, me and Dr. Sharif, let's say, graduate from same school, which is the Professor Khalid Al-Husseini, رحب فيه وأسلم إذا كان موجود. As Dr. Sharif said, for the PhD student or also for the master degree, it will be great if you start with the systematic review, because it will save time and effort. Usually you read a lot of papers, 100, 200 papers, to see where is the gap in this topic. Let's say IFRS, what Dr. Sharif present today. And the most useful thing, as Dr. Sharif right now, or let's say usually when we watch any presenter present any paper, we'll see X and Y, who will affect who, yeah? But in systematic review, we will wait in the end of the presentation to see where is the gap in this topic. So it will save many time and effort. So Dr. Sharif, I don't know how many papers he read to conclude in this, which is the contribution of this paper, which is the gap, okay, in this paper. Congratulations, Dr. Sharif, for publish this very useful paper, and I want to thank you for give the opportunity for students and also us to see where is the gaps in this topic, and we can start from there. Thank you so much. And now we can start. We can start questions. Anyone have any question, please raise your hand. Also, you can write your question in Q&A. I think there is a professor. I forget his name. Professor Nabil, I think. If anyone have any question in YouTube or also here, please raise your hand. There is Dr. Anil. I am a researcher from India, where there are a very scant research done in Islamic finance or banking. Please suggest if someone wants to basic research in IFRS, how one can process. Please suggest some research questions or objectives and suggest some free data sources. I think, Dr. Sharif, you already present this. What I recommend, Dr. Anil, to, I don't know if you, I think you asked this question for 1 hour. Dr. Anil asked if there is any recommendation, which is you already said some of ideas and recommendation, objectives and gaps for this subject. So I recommend him to watch this webinar again via YouTube, or maybe he listened to your objective, because he asked from 1 hour ago. So I think you already respond to his question. Also, Hussein Ahmed, special thanks for a great presentation, Dr. Sharif, Dr. Ahmed, for amazing coordination. I have a question related to your finding. Can we generalize the result in case of low level of compliance with AAOIFI standards, and after the testing, the consequences without splitting the data? You can read the question, Dr. Sharif, in the Q&A.
So again, Dr. Ahmed, he asked why the compliance level is low or what?
You can read the question in Q&A, Doctor. Q&A.
Yes.
Hussein Ahmed.
Can we generalize the result in case? Yes. Generalize the result in case of low level of compliance with a AAOIFI standard and after. No, you cannot generalize. The result, it can differ if you are going to use a different sample, and also based on the year that you are going to cover. And for example, if you apply or if you measure the compliance level with banking in Al Bahrain, you can find the high level because it's mandatory. So the banking, they haven't any opportunity to standard. For example, in banking, for example, in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia, it's voluntary. So I expect to find a low level of compliance. So no, you cannot generalize, and this is of course depend on banking index. For example, if you are going to measure, for example, the standard number 1, the compliance will be very high. We're talking about balance, and this is you can find. But if you are going to apply standard like governance number 7 about CSR, in this case you can find low level. So depend on the adoption, depend on the method that are going to use, depend on the sample and years. So this is, I wish I answered your question. You cannot generalize, but it's depend on your sample.
Thank you,
Muhammad asking me, yes, that about, what do you mean that about the Arabic literature? I cannot understand. As I said, one of our limitation.
Go ahead.
تفضل دكتور أحمد.
I think he
okay. As I said, one of our تفضل دكتور احمد. I'm waiting you.
Doctor, I think he meant Arabic journals or Arabic paper, like in Egypt or Jordan or in case A, for example.
By the way, there is some journal paper specialized in Islamic banking. But related to this, you don't need. You can publish if your paper related to the accounting, I mean accounting standard, AAOIFI standard. You can publish at any Arabic journal. You don't need to search about Arabic journal specialized in Islamic banking. You don't need to search about this. No, any accounting journal. If we're talking about, for example, in Egypt, you can try to publish your paper, even if it's about Islamic banking or Islamic standard, in a journal like Ain Shams University or Mansoura or Cairo University, Alexandria. So I can encourage you, if you are going to write a paper in this track, to try to publish in an international journal.
Of course, it's better if anyone search for a new position or want to transfer to another university. In Arabic universities or international, they always suggest international journals and English.
Yes.
Preferred, and also it should be ranked. Anyone had any other questions? Please raise your hand if you have. Mohammed Al-Faraj. Before we go to, we have Jinan, Dr. Jinan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Dr. Sharif. Thank you, Dr.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته دكتورة. الله يبارك لك ويكرمك.
How are you, Dr. Ahmed?
حياك الله دكتورة، حياك الله.
الحمد لله تمام.
So I would like to ask you about when we do the systematic review.
Yes.
Is there any because when we do one day, I think Dr. Ahmed discussed with us application called Barish or something. I don't know if you can remind me with that, Dr. Ahmed.
Software?
Doctora, you mean software? You can use it in systematic.
It is publish or Barish, I think.
Yes, publish or perish. Yes, publish or.
Yes. Is there do you think using those softwares are useful, Dr. Sharif, for the systematic review?
Okay, this is a good question. Yes, I understand.
Okay, if you understand what's
okay,
go ahead.
Yes, okay. I know, for example, like in meta-analysis, we have like a software you can use it to make analysis for the result of the paper. But in a systematic literature review, you cannot apply like this analysis or like this software. Learn 2, 3 steps. Ignore the steps to collect the paper. I'm not clear about this now. I'm focused about the critical analysis and classify the paper and make a recommendation. It should be based on the knowledge and experience and background of the authors. لأن I cannot put the paper in the software and say software make analysis, software make a recommendation. You cannot make like this.
No,
you get the point.
Dr. Sharif, I think there is a misunderstanding.
Yes.
What Dr. Jinan asked, there is a software that, for example, if you use, let's say we generally use Google Scholar to find any topics that's related to your topic that you are working in, right? But
you mean the tools for researching?
No. So in Google, as I said, in Google Scholar, when you search for a topic, as you said, in systematic review, you need to read a lot of papers, right? But in Google Scholar, when you search, there is 1,000 papers. There is 1,000 papers. But if there is a way that make it easier to read let's say, a very important paper in your topic. So this program, which is called Publish and or Pressure, Publish or Perish, this software, let's say, put the high citation papers in the topic that you are searching on. Okay, so let's say if there is 1,000 paper in this topic, they will choose, for example, the best 50 papers that's important and publish in high-ranked journals, for example. You can say, yeah. So I think if I understand Dr. Jinan question, is this software will help you as an author to do a systematic review? Yes or no?
To be honest, yes. Simply, I didn't use like this software, so I cannot answer your question, Doctor. But I enjoy when I search in all sources, and I can say in the track, when you make a systematic literature review for track, so already there is a scratch, or you can say there is a shortage. So you haven't a thousand just to minimize. It's already the paper related to this track, it's a few. So I'm trying to select or to search in any resource, whatever the citation is high or not. But of course, I like this software, and maybe later in the future, if I'm going to write another paper using systematic course, I will try to use like this software. And Jazakallah khair, Doctor, just to give me opportunity to know like this, the name at least of this software.
Sure. So there is some of the audience ask about this software. So I usually show it to my audience when I present a topic. So let me share it with you guys. So this is the topic. So this is the software. It's called Publish or Perish. What you need to do, just go here and click on, it's a free, just write in Google, Publish or Perish. And after that, it's a free, as I said. Click in Google Scholar and go to wherever, if you want to search an authors, publisher, publications, or anything, okay? Right now, let's go to keywords. Let's write corporate governance, for example. Okay, it will take seconds. See, for example, now they give us the 10 paper, right now 20, and so on. It will go on and search for many papers that talk about corporate governance. Okay, I am stopping the searching right now. Okay, so after this, I can click on this citation. Just a minute. If you see, it's sorted the highest citation. So of course, when you want to search and wait a bit for, like, let's say, it's depend to your topic. Let's say IFRS is not that big topic. I think half an hour, 20 minutes, it will be great. And after that, sort the citation. Are you with me, Dr. Sharif?
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, they asked you to write the name. Can you write the name of the publication?
Yeah, I will. So there is two types to know, is this paper is important or no? There is two types to answer this question. The first thing, by the publication or the publisher, okay? So you can know for example, the Journal of Finance, one of the best journal and high-ranked journals. So it's very important, okay? Plus, it's 23,588 citation. So that means it's very important. So me as a reviewer in many international journals, if you are talking about corporate governance and you didn't put this paper, there is a missing here. Okay, so same thing in the systematic review. If I want to review your paper, I will first check those the first 10 papers or the high citation. Did you use them if it's related to your topic or not? If it's not, I will put it as a recommendation. Like you should use those citation because it's important to your topic. As we said, it's a key articles in the field. So, and the second thing, which is, as I said, the publication. If you don't know if this journal, for example, the third one, the Journal of Finance by Wales or wherever, which the publisher, you can go to the index of Scopus, IBS or ABDS or wherever, ABDC, sorry, and see which rank of this journal are. So the highest, the better. The highest, the better. So yes, it's important.
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Ahmed. Allah, it's a great software. It can help not just in a systematic. If you are going to write any literature review in a paper, so I think it can save a time for you to use like this software.
Correct. In Google, some of you maybe they will ask me, Dr. Ahmed, what did you do anew? All of these, it's in Google. Yes, it's in Google, but Google, they are sorted. It's not like this. So, for example, I just click here and see the main or the best or the important papers in this field. The second thing that I am doing always, also click in here. So yes, now I choose the best paper, but this in general, the whole history or the background of this field. But also I need to click in here and see the best paper recently. For example, in 2020, this paper by G. Solomon, for example, he published it, and now it's 1,971 citation and just 1 year. So in 2020 he published it. So that means it's very, 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 very important. Yes, it's not a paper, it's a book, but it's very important. So also I will recommend the author, if he didn't put this one, there's something wrong in his paper. Why he didn't put it? Why he didn't mention it? 1,971 citation. That's not a normal paper or not a normal book. So this is a technique, by the way. I can see if the author really reads and know a knowledge of his topic or not. If no, he needs to update the literature at least and see also in the finding, if he thought it's a gap and this is a contribution, he need to check the 5 or 6 latest paper that is published in his field and see if it's published or not. If it's not, that's a contribution and everything is okay. If it's not, so he need to rethink about it and see, change some stuff, because he thought it's a contribution, but after reading the recent paper, it shows it's, as we say it in بالعربي, قتلت بحثا. So someone did it before you. That's it. I hope. Yes, Gina.
Question. Just Dr. Sharif, to avoid the biasness in the systematic literature review, just can you give us some hints from your experience?
Jinan, can you raise your voice? I cannot hear it.
I asked about avoiding the biasness in the systematic literature review. If you can just share your experience with us.
Okay, Dr. Ahmed, yes?
To avoid bias, Doctor. To avoid bias, do you have?
Yeah. Honestly, also I can say we always said that the researcher or the author should be objective and should be use more limitation for his searching, but as a human, I think you cannot ignore the bias 100%. لأن for example sometimes I'm looking for any paper talking about IOFI, any paper about research, I ignore it. I believe it's a good paper, but because based on my limitation to my searching, I ignore it. But Vice, it's a difficult point to ignore it. For example, owner on this paper, because I know it's published, and I know it's related to the. Maybe you can say this is unbiased, but you cannot answer this question, doctor, until you are going to write like this paper. If you are going later or in the future to try to write a paper in a systematic, in a field.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Nothing else, Dr.
Thank
Ahmed.
Thank you, Dr. Sharif. Thank you, Dr. Jinan. I hope Dr. Sharif answered your questions.
Yeah, thank you
so much. Thank you. Anyone had any question before we end today's webinar? Mohammed Al-Faraj, just mean usually they ask you about the Arabic literature. I think Dr. Sharif answered this. Many thanks. Anyone had any question? Any question, guys? All right, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for who's joining us today, and also special thanks for Dr. Sharif Al-Halabi for accepting my invitation and give us very useful and very important topic today. Any last word, Dr. Sharif, before we end?
Yes, my last point, as I said, here I'm available. If you'd like my help in this track, as Dr. Ahmed introduced me, and I can say my major track in research is about Islamic banking and accounting and IOFI.
So thank you, Dr. Sharif. Let me say it again because your voices keep cutting. Dr. Sharif said if you need any help in the future for student or lecturer regarding IFRS or IOFI standard, always he is available and happy to help. I already shared your email, Dr. Sharif. What an opportunity, Dr. Sharif, that help all the researcher. So I really encourage anyone want to know or help about this topic, so go ahead and just send an email or ask Dr. Sharif. By the way, Dr. Sharif, he published many papers, also his PhD about the IOFI and IFRS standards, so he is one of the key author, or let's say one of the authors that they know about this topic, so they can help you in this regard. Anything else, Dr. Sharif?
جزاكم الله خير دكتور أحمد. جزاكم الله خير.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharif, again. And also, I want to thank who is watching us in the YouTube, also who is attend also here on Zoom. Next week, inshallah, we have a workshop in the topic writing item and constructing surveys. Writing items and constructing surveys by Dr. Nasser Hassan from Kuwait University. I already put all ITAR account. I will put it again. Please join us in this account, and I will announce it inshallah tonight. So anyone want to join this workshop, it's a very useful workshop about the surveys and how to do it. Please, you can register, it's all free. Thank you so much again, and hope to see you soon next week. Have a good day. Salam.